Okay, perfect. So why don't you do a roll call and then we'll read the meeting hearing notice.
Sure thing. I'll begin roll call for attendance. I will begin with Chair Gerard Ahern,
Present.
Andy Kishitz,
Here.
Brian Holmes,
Here.
Bradley Reed,
Here.
Elizabeth Hutchins,
Here.
and Gabrielle Romano does not appear to be present, but I will adjust if she does arrive later on.
Okay.
Quorum present and accounted for.
All right. So can you bring up the meeting meeting notice?
Sure. Give me one quick moment to share my screen.
Yeah. There we go.
Yeah. Can everyone see this all right?
Okay. So pursuant to there he is.
Oh yeah, there we go. There you go.
Well, we can go. If we can go down to the actual notice, we can.
Sure.
Yeah. So the purpose of this meeting tonight is to hear and act upon an application. Now, my understanding that it's to alter or renew a special permit.
That's correct. There was some
variance that's listed here.
Yes, there's some imperfections in the language here upon further review of the application. Of course, we can't do use variances, of course. However, there is a pre-existing approved special permit back from 2017,
right,
which to my understanding, it may have lapsed within that 2-year provision. So this here is to adopt or to amend the existing decision to bring that into currency, or possibly if the board decides to issue a brand new special permit. Given that the special permit fees and the notice are identical, and there has been no amendment to the application's narrative, I made the determination that re-advertising and applying an undue burden to the applicant for an additional 2 weeks of notification was not necessary. Given that the applicant's narrative has not changed, neither has the application fee. They are both identical. So there's no meaningful difference
but for the fact that our reference, so we're not seeking relief from 250-11 of the code. If it's dealing with the special permit, I believe it's 250-3.c of the special permit.
That's correct. And should this application be viewed favorably and acted upon favorably, providing that relief under the dual use provision would need to be included as part of the decision, just because at that point we would have 2 separate uses upon one parcel.
Right, but if it's looking toward the special permit altering or renewing it, we can just, I believe we just have to cite the reference to 250.-3.c.
Perfectly said. Yes.
Oh, okay. So with that, the parcel is located at 716 Main Street, town of Bolton, on assessors map. Oh, you lost me there for a second.
Oh, yeah. Sorry. There you go.
Assessors map 1.0 as parcel 36. It noted here that's located in the commercial zoning district. It's actually parcel located in a residentially zoned district.
That's correct. Apologies for that. This is within the residential zoning class.
Right. So with that sort of clarification and clarity, the meeting's open, and why don't we have the applicant, speak to what he needs. I think we should probably proceed looking at just a renewal of the prior special permit versus go the route of looking through a whole, unless because there's many uses in there for types of use that could be done in that first floor. I mean, they're not expanding the first floor. They're not doing, my understanding. So some of the use that he may be looking for there may already be covered in there. So why don't we, have him speak to what he plans to do and see if it can be encompassed by that. It may be more expeditious of a meeting if we sort of use that prior decision from November 13th, 2017 as a proxy.
To the chair, if I may.
Yep.
I would recommend simply reviewing this as an extension or effectively a reissue of the previous decision, keeping all existing conditions in place, given that's kind of the proposal that's been prepared, that's been presented to me by Mr. Winter here. It seems like he's looking for exactly what was approved back in 2017. It doesn't look like he's seeking any extension or expansion or addition of use. So that's
why don't we have him introduce himself, confirm that that's the fact pattern. And once we corroborate that, then maybe you can just bring up that decision. We can just sort of eyeball it as a team and then entertain a motion if necessary to renew if that's the proper action.
It would be just to simply it would just simply to amend that to current date. That's all.
Right. Yep.
Okay. Hi, everyone. I'm Sean Winter.
Hi, Sean.
Thank you for taking the time to meet here. And what Todd was saying and what you were asking is correct. I've read the language in this permit, and that is it falls within the guidelines. I had basically read all this in the understanding that is everything I would have had to do and follow. So I am just looking for a renewal on this.
So you purchased the property from the former Bolton, not Bolton, the former Cracker Barrel trust or whatever it was. And
correct. And the idea was to put some sort of small country store kind of similar to local stuff around the area already.
Yep.
Just
low use and whatever was covered in that former permit.
Exactly. Yep. Correct. Maybe a small office, maybe some low retail, limited traffic, same exact. I basically had read this pre-purchase knowing what this was and understanding that was going to be the criteria. So.
Okay. So you pretty much stand by that former decision. It's just that the fact that it lapsed, nothing's been going on in that since the 2017 period. Okay. So does anyone want to look at that decision? I don't know if the whole board was involved on that, but why don't you bring that up, Andy? Todd.
just give me 1 minute. It's quite all right. Give me one quick second. That's the master law. Yeah. Okay. Can everyone see this all right?
Yep.
Right.
Okay. So as you can,
because we held a couple meetings on this too at the time because the former owner wasn't sure what he and his wife were planning on doing, but they just needed to do something, right? So so we did spend some time walking through the history of the property and what might be there, some of the parameters around the fact that it's a tight property, not much parking, a whole host of things, tight tank water because it doesn't have a full town water and whatnot. So there were some limitations that were carved out for unacceptable uses and what would be acceptable. So to the extent, I think the procedural history and some of the findings are probably the same now as they were before. Coldwell Bank had been the most recent, I believe, use in there. I don't know if anything else has been in there since then, Todd, but if not.
That was it.
Yeah, I would say it's my understanding. It's only been primarily realty bodies.
Yeah. Right. So the findings of initially is probably the same if you want to just scroll through.
Sure. Some more findings as well. As you can see here section 9, it covers the parking limitations, as you were correct, 2 parking spaces restricted. There is, of course, the ADA accessibility component, which is item 10. But aside from that, the rest is fairly boilerplate, I would say.
Right. And so here we talk about like this item 1, the pre-existing non-conforming. shall include office and retail. Oh,
I'm sorry. There we go. Sorry.
Limited to a country store, specialty shop, antique art gallery, clothing, jewelry store, craftsman, studio. So you see low use. And then there were some other items, I think, in another section that said what probably can't be used, which is item 2 would be
Restaurants.
lottery games, restaurant. I mean, those weren't because we're against those types of, items. It's just that it wouldn't really, we believe at the time, or probably current with infrastructure, it just wouldn't be suitable for that type of those businesses.
Yeah, I don't have an interest in putting that in.
Yeah.
I do have a prospective tenant that would fit item 1, and obviously I can't, but they're interested and it fits that. It's low, it's exactly low volume retail.
We won't be up to us to, make you just to determine who that is, or whatever. It's just that as long as you meet whatever criteria is in the permit, as if it were to be, extended, and then, you'd have to, I believe you'd have to then file that in the court, so it's in with the property, and then, go from there. But so we have lighting, just enough to be received. If you had to do any lighting, it's just police departments don't look at it, be sure it's sufficient for safety and whatnot. Interior signs prohibited. Oh,
yes. Yep.
And then we had our vote. So
then we have a vote. Yeah.
So would there be, currently, as you're saying, it pretty much stands like that. You wouldn't have any required modifications at this point. I mean, to the extent that as you worked through the process and you found, we may need something because you don't think it goes within this, you can always come back to the board. But if this is the sum and substance of it, then we could probably, open it up to any questions from the board. And if there's anyone from the public on that has any questions, when we deal with a special permit alteration or a renewal, the condition of special permit section 250.3.c, we just have to find that the alteration or the extension should not be more substantially more detrimental to the neighborhood than the existing use. So I think we've already found that in the prior decision. So, not much has changed since there in that area. So, any questions from the board?
I don't have anything. I don't have any pressing questions. No.
Yeah.
I will point out, Gerard, that 5.5 years ago, I voted in opposition of what was found here. My primary objection to adding retail was because of traffic concerns. I don't think the traffic concerns are any less than they were back then. So I still have a problem with retail usage at this site.
Okay.
I had no objection at the time to the office usage, which seemed to be working pretty well. That's not my, was not and is not my objection. It's to the retail aspect of this.
And is that any retail? I mean, because it's a low use and they have minimal parking, and I mean, similar to what we have across the street at that the barn and that other property, but not that they're, it's everything's on its own merit, back pattern.
I just don't think adding retail is a positive to this site and to the town on that for traffic purposes.
Right. Okay.
I know it's already been approved, 5.5 years ago, but nothing was developed. It hasn't been used as retail since the approval happened. So again, I still wouldn't mind having an office tenant in there. The parking seemed okay for that.
Okay.
I guess my question would be like, okay, so we approve this and moves forward. Like, what happens when this, because I kind of have the same concerns as Andy, to be completely honest. And I know I was not here 5.5 years ago and this was voted on, but that intersection is very congested and there's kind of a lot going on there. So my question is kind of like, if this did get approved, how does the development process work beyond our decision? Like, is it just, okay, now you can put what you want in there for retail, or like, how does that process work?
Well, it'd have to be retail that's within the low use items that are in that section 1. I believe. Can you go back to that one?
Yes, give me one moment.
And then that's policed by when I'm assuming when he has to go file for some type of either permit or business license, however that, I don't know how that works either, but I'm assuming they pull this up.
I can speak to that.
Okay.
The enforcement angle for that would be the zoning enforcement officer, which is of course Mike Savageau. If any issues arise and complaints are made, he would be the one receiving them, either he or I's office. I would be forwarding those to Mike Savageau, and he would be the one to go there and issue corrective action at that point.
Right.
Yeah.
So from the applicant's, can you at least speak to, like you say, a prospective tenant, if you don't, can you speak to what what they may anticipate as the traffic through there?
Sure.
And, if you think, just to allay any concerns about, number of vehicles at any one time on the road or whatever. Excuse me.
Short of supplying a traffic study, which would require analysis of previous sale data, which we clearly don't have. There isn't any hard objective fact to lean upon. However, given the fact that there is only 2 open spaces there and it's a low turnover retail operation that is aiming to take up residency there, I don't see any substantial added wheel traffic to that, given the nature of the low turnover commercial activity that's desired, and the fact there isn't a lot of parking to support additional wheel traffic to be overly exacerbating to the traffic concerns.
But I guess that's kind of the problem, right? Because if something moves in there, we want it to succeed. I would love to see business there, right? Like, we want to bring this to the town, but if that business isn't going to succeed also because there's no parking, I guess that's not our problem per se, right? But that's not cool.
I also think that's that's part of when you look at the parameters of what low flow means. That's a business is expecting a low flow, so they're already prepared for that, right?
Yeah.
And I do think. Oh, sorry. Go ahead. I don't want to talk to you there.
No, I was just going to say. Now that we have parking on the town common, which I know can get busy when there's things going on, events in town or whatever. But honestly, if that was sort of where people were supposed to park, and maybe the parking at the Cracker Barrel was for the employees, for instance, because what I see, and I know we can't park there now at Kitchen Sink across the street, but they had that little mini parking lot, and pulling in and out of there was an absolute disaster. I don't know if anybody had tried that at any point in time. But I kind of see that similarly happening with those Cracker Barrel parking spots right off Wattaquatic. So that's kind of where my concern is there. I think if the thought was people will park on the main road, people will park in the common, the expectation is they shouldn't be parking in the Cracker Barrel parking lot, then, there's a little bit less impact there, especially again, given that it's low volume. The other thing I want to kind of just mention, Todd, and I think we talked about this months ago with a prior application, but when we talk about low flow, if it becomes higher flow than it's expected and people start to complain about the traffic and all of that, it kind of gets kicked back, right? For us to kind of discuss.
At that point, you would go through the enforcement process at that point. And at that point, we'd be able to revise and revisit. We'll revisit first, then revise any potential approvals that have been issued at that point.
Okay.
Yes.
I have a quick comment. The history of the place, from my recollection, I've been in town since 1982. It was a video store in the mid 80s. They were renting video cassettes. That didn't seem to be a problem with traffic. Smith's Garage was across the street from it, which caused some some traffic congestion problems with the, you know, they sold gas and they also repaired automobiles. So that was a problem that in there, and there was an art gallery which seemed to work out reasonably well, but that they moved on, and so you know, I don't think it's going to be a major traffic issue with it. The only concern I would have is something that served coffee or required lots of water, because it is a tight tank and it has to be pumped regularly when it fills up.
Right.
So.
Right. And I think the applicant said that isn't one of the items they're looking to support anyway. And it's certainly a preclusion from that item 2 here on the decision, on the prior decision. So,
Yes.
So if I could just jump in for the parking comments for 1 minute.
sure.
So what I have seen just being in the area and obviously just paying attention to this is a couple things, is that people park from what I've seen in the common or on the street, and they like to walk the area. I've had people showing up to the building looking for the general store they wanted to walk in. It's a lot of foot traffic more than driving to that specific spot. There's just within walking distance a few places. And with the 6 spots I've been spending some time watching the spots on the street. There's 6 parallel parking spots in front of the common, and they are empty all the time. Very easy to park there. The common, like Liz had said, when there's a big event, it's different. But again, a lot of people park at Trinity Church and walk down for the big events. Everybody kind of works together in the community. But I think people, if they want to park in the lot, would. But I think that most people would feel more comfortable shooting across the street, parking the common, and walking around and then going back to their car at their leisure and leaving. And that's the low volume part. It's not a get a coffee and leave. You're in a hurry. You want to get a coffee and leave. It's you're there you chose a moment to take some time for yourself. And so you're not rushed to get out. I think it's going to be less traffic in the parking lot and more usage of the already existing parking in the common in the street. It's just, that's how I would see it.
Right.
And
So
I'm
I
not
guess-
even sure those lots were there. That 5.5 was the common even done then? And I know the spots on the street weren't there.
No, they weren't there. So
Yeah, none of that was even there then.
and even the, you know, with the advent of like that sort of that open space area now and the town common and that parking, I mean, you do see more. I mean, that intersection is better. The light, you know, you have people crossing. I mean, it seems like it's much more, it's safer in some respect. You know, there is more, there's generally more traffic in town. So lights back up and cars back up. But, you know, to the applicant's point, there are oftentimes when I go down that way, if I go down that way, there are spaces to park on the street. Like even last week when I went to the town, the art fair that they had on Saturday, there were spaces still, even though there are people milling about at that art festival, there were a few spaces on the street, but there were also spaces in the at the town common, you know, where you park up there. So I opted to go in there, but I could have parked in the street even on a busy time.
I acknowledge that the property in the past had been used for retail purposes. Does anybody can definitively tell me when was the last time that there was a retail tenant into this property?
I don't know the date, and I remember going in there when they
art-
been selling jewelry and art.
Yeah, I remember something
since
like
I've been
that
here.
too.
Probably in the mid-90s. And somebody selling them, and I went in there several times, and
Right, I remember. around that
wasn't a high volume situation.
No. Buying a piece of jewelry, you know, I mean, it wasn't high end, but it was just, you know, something. There was jewelry and some art in there at the time when I recall.
Yeah, me as well.
and I was able to park, pull off Water Aquatic into the spot there where maybe there's parking for the upstairs residential, I don't know, but it, wasn't a problem then, but as we always acknowledge, traffic has increased over time and will continue to do that. So, but that town common area, they are trying to sort of vitalize it or revitalize it. So, as long as the applicants, realizes that it's going to be low flow, and if it should change or take a greater demand because if it takes off, there's going to be enforcement compliance that will either potentially, if someone goes to Mike Savageau, building events, and okay, it seems like it's overreach, then as Todd says, it comes back to us and we have to review it at that point and see if there's other conditions to put on the property.
And the next question I had, would the square footage of retail usage be limited in any way?
It's just to the first floor, right? So, and they're not expanding the size. So what's that? How many square feet was on that first floor? I think it's in the document.
Yeah, that's what I'm looking for, sir.
I think it's 1,600 and
Yeah, I thought it was some.
So that includes all the space that was formerly office space. They could fill the entire first floor with retail.
I would think it must, yeah, if it's the first floor, because the second floor is residential, right?
Right.
Yes.
Right. So, right, and so that's, so, I mean, there's probably.
it's number 6.
Yeah.
Number 6, so, right, so there's gonna be in, so, yeah, the 17,070 square feet are available for retail, says here. Mhm. Mhm. Do you have concerns with that square footage, Andy, or is it just the fact that?
Well, I believe when this came before us in 2017,
Mhm.
I think we were envisioning even less retail space, because maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I thought the understanding was that the office space would continue to be utilized for office space, but maybe that's not the case.
No, right. I don't think it was, if they were going to use office, they could use the office space. I mean, it's one of the allowed uses as they noted there, but the retail space, right? So, I mean, it's not a very big, I mean, it doesn't occupy a very big footprint. That square footage, I mean, when you put in counters or whatever, it's not, I can imagine it's probably somewhat less than that to be actually useful. They have to have, but I still think it is, they're not altering or expanding that non-conformity pre-existing condition there. They're just using within the space that's there. So, any other questions or comments? I mean, I'm sure Todd's been taking these down and it's recorded, so he can identify what was raised, but and if Todd, is there any members from the town, or like the residents, anyone else on the call?
Yeah, yes, this is Roland Oceanvine, and I'm at 702 Main Street, Mr. Chair, and we're not a direct abutter, but we're just down the street, a couple of doors, and we're within the impact zone of notification. So we are in support of this, of allowing the non-conforming pre-existing low-impact retail office use as it was before. Just a couple of comments. I think we're probably more interested in the sustainability and viability of whatever goes in there. We've been here as well for nearly 30 years and have been, intimately involved in a number of projects in the town center area, the library and the town common and others.
Mhm.
So we want to see something succeed there.
Right.
And parking is certainly an issue that you brought up. I know there's been talk about a general store or a country store, and I know this is sort of out of the area of concern here, I guess. But I'm a little bit familiar with the Harvard General Store, and I know that they worked for years and years trying to build a sustainable business there, and it's been a long uphill battle. And they have many advantages over this space. They have adequate parking. They have town water and sewer. They have liquor, beer and wine sales. They've got a commercial kitchen. They've got all these things, and yet it's still very, very difficult. So
Right.
I want to make sure that the applicant is going in here with eyes wide open, and maybe the general store is of a entirely different concept. I don't know, but so just a comment about that. And but yes, we're very supportive of something viable, some low impact but viable use that's consistent with the character of the town and respects the neighborhood and the residential nature of the neighborhood, and yet provides some vibrancy in the downtown area that we all want to see. So we're in support.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you, Roland.
Okay, is that the extent of the public participation, Todd? I can't see on my screen who's.
Yes, to my knowledge, yes, sir.
Okay. So I guess we have two things to consider. We have if there's no other comments from the board or whatnot, then we'd entertain a motion to close the public portion. And then we can, if there's any discussion amongst the board, discuss or have a motion to renew the permit under the new owner's name with the similar conditions that are in the prior special permit, and then vote on that if there's some motion.
So vote to close first.
I guess my motion that we close the public hearing.
Second.
Who seconded that?
With Ms. Hudson.
Second.
Ms. Hudson.
Okay.
I think multiple of us did.
A preponderance, I'll just keep that. All right, very good. With that, I will proceed with the roll call vote. I'll begin with Chair Gerard.
Yes.
Todd,
Yes, sir.
can you tell me what's the, is it a majority vote?
For this, it's a special permit, so it still would be a supermajority.
Thanks.
Okay, so I'll begin again with Chair Gerard Ahern,
Yes.
with Andy Kashitz,
Abstain.
okay, and with Brian Holmes.
Yes.
Very good. Bradley Reed.
Yes.
Thank you, sir. And Ms. Hutchins.
Yes.
Very good. With 4 in favor, none opposed, and 1 abstention, this motion carries.
Okay, that was the motion to
close.
close the
Yeah.
hearing, right? Okay.
Yes, sir.
So, did we exhaust the discussion on it during the hearing, or if not, is there a motion to accept to renew the special permit with the same conditions from the previous lapse decision?
I would make a recommendation that we renew the special permit subject to the restrictions and requirements of the previous special permit.
Very good. With that, I'll begin the vote.
Second.
Very good. With that, I will begin holding roll call vote.
That was
Gerard.
seconded. That was seconded.
Yes, yes, it was.
Yeah.
Yes, it was seconded.
Yeah.
It was.
Okay.
So I'll begin roll call vote. I'll begin with Chair Gerard.
Yes.
Andy.
Abstain.
Very good, thank you. And Mr. Holmes,
Yes.
Mr. Reed,
Yes.
Mr. Reed?
Yeah.
very good. Thank you. And Ms. Hutchins.
Yes.
Very good. With 4 votes in favor, 0 opposed, and 1 abstention, this motion carries.
Perfect. So, so the motion is accepted for the applicant, and you'll just work with him as far as, do we need one more motion? Do we have any type of new decision write-up that has to be done, or is it just a boilerplate?
I'll be drafting the decision in resonance with what was agreed upon here. Much of it will be the older decision back from 2017.
Right.
I'll simply be updating and adding the new findings from here today, especially in the procedural history. I'll
Right.
make sure that's updated to reflect tonight's meeting. Everything else should be bog standard.
New applicant and whatnot. So then we would probably need one more motion to accept the board wants to do that, is to allow for me to sign the decision.
Yes,
Once
on
it's
behalf of the board.
reviewed and approved by the board.
Yes.
I'll motion for approval for Gerard to sign the final decision.
Second.
Very good. I will begin a roll call vote. I'll begin with Chair Gerard.
Yes,
Andy,
Yes.
Brian,
Yes.
Bradley. Brad, sir,
Yes.
thank you. And Ms. Hutchins.
yes.
Yes.
Very good. With that, motion carries 5 unopposed.
Okay, so you'll let the applicant know the time frame of, once it gets signed and it gets filed, and then the appeal
Yes.
process and whatnot. So,
Exactly. It's a standard 14-day or the 20-day appeal process. I'll just give me a ring and I'll guide you through the whole process after that. Okay. Then after that 20-day appeal period is satisfied, then you can bring that down to the registry and have that filed and stamped in. Okay. But I'll go over all that with you tomorrow if you give me a ring. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
all right.
You're welcome, sir.
Good luck with that, on the new work there, Sean, and
Thank you.
hope to see a door open one of these days in there.
Thank you very much. I hope it is. I'm excited. Thank you.
I'd love
Right,
to see
great.
an art gallery up there. I think that'd be
Yeah.
great.
Yeah, so,
Do you have any
All right, so-
donated artwork you can bring in?
You don't want me to paint, draw, sculpt anything. I write music. I don't do anything visual. No.
Frame your written music.
yeah, right.
My staff
So-
handwriting is awful. But either way,
Right, I guess with that, we just need a motion to adjourn, and unless there's any other business.
that's
Make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Second.
Second.
multiple
Right.
seconds. I'll just put all of you guys in. All right, so I'll begin the roll call here. Begin with Chair Ahern.
Yes,
Andy,
Yes.
Mr. Holmes,
Yes.
Brad,
Yes.
Ms. Hutchins.
Yes.
And with that, folks, our meeting is now concluded.
and thanks.
Thank you.
Todd.
All right.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you for your
Take care.
time.
Bye-bye. Yeah,
Thank you.
bye-bye.
Sean, just give me a ring tomorrow and we'll go over the next steps, okay?
Thank you.
You're welcome, sir. Have a good night, everyone.
Good. Bye, folks. Thanks, Todd.
Oh, take care.
Mhm.
Have a good night. I'm gonna get some dinner.